I want to preface my story with a little explanation for you of the type of learner I am, being in the capacity to teach and to work with students in numerous forums over the years, and being the mother of 3 children, I have come to learn a lot about different types of learners. And I've come through this training of children to me about different styles of learning. I've come to realize about myself that I am an experiential learner, hardcore. Visual, kind of, oral, yes, the two combine very strongly, but very much I rely on experience. And that is to say, the more experience I have at something, the better I become at it. So just log that in your brain and set that aside for a minute, because we're going to come back to that. My senior year as an undergraduate at CU Boulder, rather than returning to Boulder for the fall semester, I hopped on a plane and flew to Australia. I'm newly 21 years old, and I flew to Australia for my fall semester as a senior to do a study abroad with the International Field of School Study, or International Field School Study abroad, to do field school in Cairns, Australia, where we did rainforest ecology studies, marine ecology studies, and Aboriginal cultural ecology studies. This, for me, was my dream study because I majored in anthropology and my minor was environmental studies. So this was a great way in my mind to go and combine my interests and my studies to go to Australia, where I'd always wanted to go since I was a little girl. I don't really know why, but for me, that was this exotic, awesome place with kangaroos and koalas, and it was the down under, and they talked really funny, and I always wanted to go there. So here was this opportunity to do that. And why not go to Australia and do your school there? So that's what I did. And there's a lot that happened in that semester. I mean, I could go on for a very long time, and I did to Sharon, for all the things that happened in that semester abroad in Australia. And she was like, wow, that's great, but you gotta make it a 15-minute story after 35 minutes of telling her everything that happened there. So there is a lot that happened, but the study was broken down into, we did our rainforest ecology in the Daintree rainforest, which was amazing. And we did marine ecology studies on the but we hopped on a plane and flew down to Brisbane, and we took this boat 50 miles out to the Great Barrier Reef, and we snorkeled for 8 hours a day in and day out for a month, doing marine ecology studies on the Barrier Reef. And my experience there included face-to-face, literally, with a shark that was 6 to 7 feet long that I saw go by me. But that's a whole nother story in and of itself that I'll have to leave because I have to move on. And the Aboriginal cultural ecology consisted of basically a walkabout. We literally did a walkabout in the bush. We call it the backcountry wilderness. They call it the bush. And led by 2 Aborigines that literally walked us around in the wilderness, camping each night wherever we happened to stop, campfires, out there hearing these amazing stories of their life and how they lived on the land and with the land and so forth. So that's how the semester was broken down in these 3 major studies, and culminating all of this was to be an independent study of your choice, to be either, focused in rainforest ecology or marine ecology or Aboriginal culture ecology. Well, me being the anthropology major, environmental studies, of course I was going to go for Aboriginal culture ecology. And I set up this fabulous study, put a lot of legwork and time and effort into creating a study that I thought was ideal in this theme. At the time, the government of Australia had recently passed these laws of reclamation and retribution concerning Aborigines, coming out of this everybody knows this long history of, disservice and just horrible atrocities that had been done to the Aborigines. Coming out of that, the Australian government had passed these laws saying, okay, any policy and governance we do around land and use of land will include and must include Aborigines in a government role having say in any policy that has anything to do with how their land is used. So this was a fairly new thing. Australia government was trying to figure out how to do this and what that would look like. And I wanted my independent study to be regarding this one particular issue of sustainable logging, where they've got this logging that needs to happen and we want it to be done in a sustainable way. Oh, and we need to have the Aborigines involved in how that's going to happen. Well, of course that's an ideal study for me. And the day I'm supposed to get on a bus and go out to the university where I was to meet the professor where this was supposed to happen, we get a call that says, I have a family emergency. We can't do this study. I got to leave. This isn't happening. Bye, you're on your own. I mean, that's pretty much how it happened. We're not even really sure. I can't remember the details exactly of what the emergency was about, but all I knew was that all of the time and effort I had put into my independent study was now gone, and this was not going to happen, and there were still 6 weeks ahead of me that I had to fill with some sort of independent study somewhere in Australia about something. That ideally had to relate to rainforest or marine or Aboriginal cultural ecology. And I'm devastated, I'm heartbroken, I'm depressed, I have no idea what I'm going to do. All the other students have hopped on their planes, got on the trains, got on the bus, they're gone. What am I gonna do? And the director of the program, he's on the phone, he's calling everybody he knows, he's working his networks, and one of his friends happens to be the person who was our instructor 2 months ago in the Daintree Rainforest, who just happens to be doing this study on the Mariba rock wallaby, specifically named Mariba rock wallaby for this tiny town of Mariba that was 2.5, 3 hours west of where we were at in Cairns, out where we're leaving the rainforest, where dry eucalyptus forest now is opening up into what would be like the savanna of Africa, this dry grassland area, where kangaroos, okay, that's the area where you would typically find kangaroos and their little cousin, cute teddy bear-sized wallabies, but in the middle of this nowhere was a hole that opened up in the ground, a gorge. And these wallabies had evolved to become their very own select special species of wallabies not found anywhere else in Australia, because somehow, I don't know why, they got themselves down in the gorge and lived down there among the rocks. That's not what wallabies do. They're hopping in the grassland, sort of animals. And yet here they are living in a rock gorge, and had done so long enough that they had evolved to have very specific characteristics unlike any other wallabies. So this professor, this rainforest professor, had been studying these amazing, awesome wallabies as he thought they were. Now mind you, remember I'm an anthropology major, okay? Biology, animals, the extent of my interest was I have to remember to feed my dog dinner also, not just breakfast. That's kind of my association with animals. And yet here the instructor of the program is coming to me saying, pack your bags, we're getting in the car, I'm driving you out to this hole in the ground and you're gonna go study wallabies. Okay, sure, I can do that. I didn't have a choice. Oh, and by the way, you're camping. So we get all our camping gear together. He drives me out to the nearest market, gives me a bag of groceries that I'm supposed to live on for the next 6 weeks, and drives me out to this hole in the middle of nowhere, 2 hours away, and pretty much says, okay, bye, I'll see you in 5 weeks. And leaves me here at this campground where there is to call it a campground is not to put it nicely. It's really this very rundown trailer park at the top of this gorge, where there's certainly no camping or recreationist living there for camping purposes. There happens to be some ragtaggle bunch of guys who are living there in rundown trailers who normally are out picking fruit, be it mango or lime or star fruit. And when they're not out picking their various fruits, in between the fruit season, they go and they live in this trailer park at the top of this gorge. So that's my neighbors. And I'm living in a tent here among these people. And I'm supposed to study these wallabies. I've been given my notebook, and I've been given a stopwatch because I have to time, and just observe the wallabies. Okay, like I know anything about observing animals because, again, this is not really where I'm oriented. And I need to mention here that one of the major concerns and focus of this particular study for these wallabies was that wallabies naturally are nocturnal, and they're natural foragers of grasslands and what you would find in grasslands, be it berries or bugs or whatever they normally pick up and eat at night. These particular wallabies that live down in this gorge were not living in their natural state, because to this gorge that, mind you, remember, was in the middle of nowhere, about 2 to 3 times a week there would be a bus that would come to this gorge full of about 50 Japanese tourists that would get off the bus to go snap pictures of, oh, the really cute wallabies. Because Japan, now if you remember on a map, is just north of Australia, and it was very easy hop, skip, and a jump on a plane to go down to Australia for a vacation. And somehow this hole in the middle of nowhere had got into the brochures for Japanese tourism. So these Japanese tourists came out to this hole and would get out of the bus and would file down, about 20 feet down this little walk path down into the gorge. Now the gorge is about 1 mile to 2 miles in length. It's about 1/4 mile wide, and it's about 200 to 300 feet deep. Okay, and these wallabies that would normally be asleep during the day are interacting with the Japanese tourists out during the day and eating chips and popcorn and cookies and candy, whatever happens to be coming out of the backpacks of the Japanese tourists. So the concern, of course, is, what is this doing to these wallabies? That's not healthy, and certainly full of disease and so forth. And this is what I have to think about as I'm studying these wallabies and observing them. And then I was also supposed to observe the wallabies then when they're not interacting with the Japanese tourists. So I have to watch them with the tourists, and then I also have to go find them when the tourists weren't there. And in order to find them, I have to go down in the gorge. And this gorge is full of boulders that are 3 to 4 meters high, which is 9 to 12 feet roughly. The boulders are very, very smooth because now we're in an area of Australia that has 2 seasons, wet season, dry season. During the wet season, the rainy season, there's so much water that comes down in this part of Australia that gorge, remember that's 200 to 300 feet deep, is full of raging water. And it covers these boulders that are between 9 and 12 feet high boulders. So every year they're worn smooth from this water. Well, I'm there in the dry season when there's not a drop of water anywhere. And all of these boulders are exposed. And this is what you're climbing down. I'm climbing down and hopping down to get down into the gorge to find these wallabies. And I was told, remember this ragtaggle bunch of guys at the top of the gorge, oh, the best way to get around in the gorge is to do it barefoot, because those boulders are so slick that your sandals or your Tevas or whatever I was wearing, it just don't grip. So we have found that it's easiest to do it barefoot. And in fact, they were right. It took me about 1.5 weeks or so to toughen up my feet, but I was able to finally just barefoot was the way to go. So I would go down there with my backpack, and I would get down into the gorge and be hopping around on these boulders to go find the wallabies. And it happened about 3 weeks into my study. I'm by myself. Sometimes I had somebody accompany me more for entertainment because it was awfully boring to watch wallabies for 2 or 3 hours at a time. It was nice to be able to talk to somebody. But on this particular day, I did not have anybody with me. I was by myself. In my backpack was my camera, because I had to take pictures of the wallabies, was my notebook, was my pencil. I did have a hat on. I had my water bottle, my 32-ounce water bottle, which was, I'm about 45 minutes down into the gorge. I'm probably about a mile down. It's a hot day. I've drunk about half my water. And I hop from one boulder to the next. My foot slips and I fall down into this crevice, this crack between 2 giant boulders. And I'm now down in a hole. I look up and I'm seeing these 2 giant boulders on either side of me, and there's a hole. The hole I fell down is up above me a good 10 feet. And I'm down in a little hole. And I happened to fall. I fell down on the hard bedrock of this creek, this gorge, where water normally would be, with my right foot up underneath me. And I knew it was bad. I knew right away it was bad. I pulled my foot out, and it immediately was swollen the size of a cantaloupe. I had my camera with me, took a picture of it. Actually, the size of a cantaloupe. And there's the hole very far up above me. And I did not have rope with me. This is a fairly small cavern into which I've fallen. And, you know, what am I going to do now? How am I going to get out? I screamed for a long time. I screamed and I yelled. Now, mind you, this was a Sunday afternoon. And those guys that are normally around up top were in the habit of leaving Friday night and leaving for the nearest town, which is an hour away, not coming back until really late Sunday night or early Monday morning. So I'm yelling, but nonetheless, I'm going to yell. And I'm a good mile into this gorge. And I'm yelling and I'm yelling and I'm yelling and I'm screaming and I'm yelling. And after about 45 minutes of this to an hour, I'm hoarse and I'm realizing this is getting me nowhere. And I still have to get out of this hole. We're in the afternoon. I didn't have any food in my backpack. I had eaten a late breakfast earlier in the day of canned beans or whatever it is I happen to open from my not very plurific camp food to begin with, but I certainly did not have like granola bars or snack bars or something like that to be putting in my backpack. So I just had my water, which at this point was about 16 ounces or so, between 12 and 16 ounces, needed to get out of this hole. And I could see, I'm pretty much down in this hole wedged between these 2 big boulders. And I could see that really the only way to get up out of this hole was to have to somehow wedge myself between these boulders and get up out. But I had this bad foot, so where am I going to put the weight was my question. What is the engineer tactics involved here? I did not like what I saw, what I knew had to happen, so I avoided it. And I first tried to get myself up by wedging my elbows between these boulders and shoving myself up, and that just wasn't going anywhere because there was nothing to leverage off of from the bottom. And after about 45 minutes or so of trying that and getting nowhere, then it was more panic of, do I spend the night here? I knew it was going to be getting cold. I was getting down, drinking my water. I was trying not to drink too much. I still needed to get out of this hole. Would I wait for somebody to come find me? It was not unusual for me to be gone for 3 to 4 hours at a time. So would they even think to notice that I'm gone? If they even come back from who knows wherever they're at and not too drunk or whatever, you know. So I still had to get out of this hole. And I had a tank top on, which was to say that my back was exposed and all my arms were exposed because I just had a tank top on my shorts. And I knew what I knew had to happen, and I finally just accepted and did, was that I had to, there was
let me back up and explain. There was this slight sort of, here's the two boulders going up on either side of me, and there was a smaller rock here to jump off of. And I knew that I basically had to jump off, launch myself off of that rock so that I could jump up high enough to wedge myself between the two boulders. I never rock climbed in my life, by the way. I became a rock climber after that and loved rock climbing after that, but had not done so before this. I knew that it had to be my good foot to catch myself, to be able to push off of the boulder, and to have that sort of, I don't know, what is that, fulcrum leverage there. So I attempted the first time of, launching myself forward to jump off of my bad foot, my bad right swollen foot, to be able to jump up to catch myself with my left foot between the two boulders and my back. I knew it would be painful, but I was not expecting how painful it would be. And when I did jump off my bad foot, it was sort of a take my breath away, and it was just launch myself backwards back into the. It was so painful. It was excruciating. And so it took me a while to recover from that. But at least now I knew what to expect. So after a while of freaking out some more, because I didn't know if I actually wanted to do that again, and still another half an hour, however long has gone by now, and I'm debating with myself whether it's worth it to sleep the night in there or to continue to scream some more or wait if somebody will come. It's getting dark. It's now, I've lost quite a bit of light. And I was afraid of being in this hole. I didn't have a flashlight or anything with me, so I was afraid of being in there in the dark. And by the way, I could see wallabies scat about, and I'm thinking, how the heck did the wallabies get in and out of here? I need to be, where are they? Why can't they show me how to get out of here? Where are you guys? So I finally just accepted that I needed to just get out of there. I was not going to stay in that hole. And I did try it again. I had put my backpack to the front of me because I knew that I needed my back to wedge against the back of the rock. I once again launched myself. I did jump off my bad foot, and I was able to catch myself with my left foot and wedge myself between these two rocks. And then I was there stuck for a while because I just had to breathe, because then I knew what was coming next was to have to push and scrape my back up against this boulder to get up. And I had about, 8 feet to go or so. And so it was just sort of this back and forth of pushing against my foot and my back and wedging, and stopping every once in a while. And I'm scraping up my back, I'm scraping up my elbows, and it's just this back and forth of wedging myself up to the top. I don't know how long it took. I was not looking at my watch anymore. I'm just focusing and trying to, breathe. Adrenaline's going. I'm in excruciating pain. Everything is scratched up. My right foot in the meantime is dangling down because there was no more putting pressure on that. I did finally, for however long it took, get to the top of that, and then it was a matter of take off the backpack, throw it over me, hope that it lands up on top of the boulder, and then have to fling myself around fast enough onto my front and catch my left foot again, so that now I'm on my stomach, hurling myself up over just flat against the boulder, wedging with my left foot back against the boulder behind me. And now I'm in a much easier position to then just shove off my good left foot up over the rest of that boulder. When I was able to get out of that hole, and it took a good, 2 hours or so, there were 2.5, 3 hours. It's very late in the afternoon now, and I'm still a good mile down in this gorge, and I have to get to the top. So then it's like, okay, now what? Can't hop and hike out of here like the way I got in. And I have this bad foot. I certainly can't stand up on it. It occurred to me that I'm going to have to do the crab walk out of here. So because once I was on top of the boulders, to then just go back on my hands and my good foot that's not hard on top of a rock. So I had 3 good crab legs, because my right foot now I'm just, I'm dragging it, I'm going backwards out of this gorge, doing the crab walk backwards out of this gorge. And when I came to a boulder that I had to then flip around and pull myself up and over, then I would. But it took me 45 minutes to get down to where I was. This took to get out by crab walk, took about 2 hours, an hour and a half, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I'm drinking up my water, trying not to drink too much, but still I'm thirsty and got to drink it. But it took a while to get out. And so that by the time I finally did get to the top of the gorge, it was dark. It was dusk. It was late dusk, going dark. And then it was all time to scream again. Like I was done. I was scraped up everywhere. My back was raw. The backs of my elbows were raw. My foot is useless. I was able to finally yell loud enough to get the attention of the campground operator, who did get me to a late night Sunday night ER sort of place where we had to wait and call the doctor in and all that, an hour into town and so forth. Turns out I had fractured my foot in several places, but I got out of the hole. And and to take me back to the beginning of my story, where I told you that I was this experiential learner, I recently interviewed for a job where on the application and then in person in the interview, there was one of the questions was, so how do you handle setback? And I was like, what? Like, to me, that was such a ridiculous question. I thought, why is that a question on an interview form? And I, because for me, the most obvious answer was, well, duh, you just keep trying. And that was pretty much my response. Well, I just keep trying until something works. And if it doesn't work, I try again. And I keep trying over and over. And when I thought about it later, I realized, well, I know that was profound, directly related to that experience of trying to get out of that hole in Australia, because as far as I was concerned, I didn't have any other choice but to get out of that hole. And I had to try over and over and over again until something worked to get out. And, so it's like, why wouldn't I keep trying until something worked? And I did get the job.